Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. And today we're going to be playing the flashback draft format for the week, which is Ravnica Allegiance. So a quick little break from Final Fantasy here, but we'll be back to that starting tomorrow. Ravnica Allegiance is the Return to Ravnica, the second set. Within that block, it's got the Orzhov, which is black-white, the Gruul, green-red, Simic, green-blue, Rakdos, red-black, and is that all of them? One, two, three, four. Azorius, blue white, is the last color pair. So there's only 5 main decks within the set, like most Ravnica sets. However, there's also a 5-color Gates deck that's worth mentioning. If you see one of the really powerful uncommons like Gates Ablaze that does damage to all creatures equal to the number of gates you control, you can certainly draft a deck around that. Or Gatebreaker Ram gets +1/+1 for each gate you control. You can do some great 5-color gate stuff, but we started with an excellent 2-color rare, so we're just going to jam that. Ethereal Absolution gives your whole board +1/+1, and your opponent's whole board -1/-1, and you can exile cards from your opponent's grave to make 1/1 flying spirits. As long as you control the Ethereal Absolution, those are obviously 2/2s for 4 mana at instant speed, which is really, really busted. One of the strongest rares in the whole set, so we're really happy to start with that. And because of its power level, we are really, really likely to want to just stick to Orzhov if we can. However, you can splash a little bit here, so we could go like black, white, splash blue, and play this Azorius Skyguard if we want. But I think there's some pretty decent on-color cards, so we can just go with those, like Carrion Imp and Spire Mangler being fine flyers for the cost. Go for the Spire Mangler. The Carrion Imp also wants to exile cards from graveyards, so these cards kind of eat each other's lunch, so to speak. For pick 3, we've got a final payment, excellent, efficient removal. It's very flexible. The mechanic in Orzhov in this set allows you to create a 1/1 flyer when you sacrifice a creature with the Afterlife ability. So you have a lot of creatures that are pretty expendable to sacrifice, but you could also just pay 5 life. If you have some weird enchantment on the board, you could sack it. Obviously, we would never be sacking Ethereal Absolution, but this is very flexible and very efficient removal. So final payment, easy pickup here. Nothing really exciting here. Pick 4. The Vampire has an okay ability, but 4 mana for a 2/3 is just a really bad stat line up front. Fireblade Artist for aggressive Rakdos stuff. Maybe we could be Rakdos Splash in Ethereal Absolution. We're just not very high on the 10th District Veteran or the Grudian, so speculating towards Rakdos or taking an Azorius Guildgate are the spots to be here. Speculating Rakdos or speculating Azorius. I'll just take the Artist. Pick 5. Wow, alright, well we can just take a Tithe Taker. Obviously this doesn't do too much in terms of the whole abilities thing, but just a 2/1 that dies into a 1/1 flyer is already a really good deal. The Afterlife mechanic coming in clutch there, so like seeing that pick 5, that's an okay sign for our Orzhov nonsense here. Pick number 6, Twilight Panther, perfectly fine, just the filler little Death Toucher to trade into the big Simic and Gruul creatures in the set. All the big green nonsense. Pick 7, Viscopa Vampire's fine. It's going to be incredibly easy to cast in a black-white deck because of that hybrid mana value. And the lifelink is solid. It only has 1 toughness. It's going to trade off into pretty much anything, but gives you a pocket of life when it does. It's also Consigned to the Pit. 6 mana removal, pretty expensive. You can play it in some decks if you're low on removal, but I think in Orzhov, hopefully we can just pick up some final payments and have the cheaper removal spells. Bladebrand has some cute combos too. Because we're going to have 1/1 tokens lying around, we can Bladebrand a 1/1. Give it Death Touch. Plague White and Drillbit are both fine filler. I'm not very high on the lockets, though. Just going to make sure I have enough creatures up front here. Grab a Plague White. Pick 9. Pack's getting empty enough at this point. I think we can take Vindictive Vampire. Although it will be one of the more filler cards in our deck. Again, the ability technically does work well in like a black-white sacrifice deck, which is what Orzhov is sort of trying to be with the Afterlife mechanic, but the stat line is just so slow and dirtily for that cost. Undercity Scavenger and Bloodmist Infiltrator, neither of these are that bad from my memory. Although we are Very much playing off of super old memory of this set. It's been a long time. I think I'm gonna go Scavenger. As far as I remember, the 5/5 Scry 2 stat line was just really good and very worth the Afterlife sacrifice. Wheel of Grudian here. Wheel the Vampire. I don't like this card too much, but I do still think getting it that late is an okay sign for black because I think that other players value it relatively highly compared to me. So I think pick 13 or 14 is still somewhat of a sign. Pack 2, pick 1, great pickup here. Ministrant of Obligation. It's got Afterlife 2. So when it dies, you get 2 1/1 flyers. Really spam that board out. Get all your flying threats that Orzhov is so good at getting in this set. Pack 2, pick 2. There's the Gates Ablaze. Great card for doing that 5-color gate deck. Not really what we're doing here. We've got a Debtor's Transport, which does have Afterlife 2, but it is a ton of mana. It's still pretty okay, though. Or we have the Carrion Imp for the more efficient flyer. The Viscopa Vampire in the middle of our curve. Or just grab an Orzhov Guildgate and get some fixing here. There are some really powerful color restrictive cards in this format. There's like double white, double black cards. Like literally, not just like Cry of the Carnarium that's double black, but I mean a card that costs 2 white, 2 black to cast. So having some guild gates in case we open one of those is a decent speculation, I think. We did open up a good signpost uncommon, so we'll take that here with the Pitiless Pontiff. 2 mana, 2/2, but you can sack a creature to give it Death Touch and Indestructible till end of turn, so it's really difficult to attack into this or block it very well. It makes combat pretty rough for your opponent as long as you have any Afterlife card on board, so a Tithe Taker, Ministrant of Obligation, with a Pitiless Pontiff is going to put our opponent in a terrible position. I do think Cry the Carnarium is good in terms of the individual power level of that card, but it's kind of awkward in this format because the best black decks, the 2 black guilds, are Orzhov, which is black-white tokens to an extent, and you don't really want to exile all your own stuff, and then Rakdos, which is black-red aggro, so I feel the Cry of the Carnarium ends up being pretty awkward, even though it's individually a good card. Pick 4, I can use some more filler 2 drops, we'll grab Impassioned Orator, I suppose. Smothering Tithe. As excited as you might be to see this as a commander player, not good in 1v1 draft. Pick 5. The filler Edict Removal or late game Graveyard Recursion. Got a lot of creatures in here, and they are averaging out to be a pretty efficient curve. I think we should have some stuff in grave for the Dead Revels to spam out some more creatures. Pick 6. Vampire or Carrion Imp are probably the safe picks, because Priest of Forgotten Gods is pretty hard to get activating, but it is very, very powerful if you do start activating it. So I'm going to take the Priest here and see if we can go full-on Orzhov Sacrifice, get pretty lucky. Impassioned Orator here, or get to the point off the splash. I'm on 1 final payment and 1 Undercity's Embrace for removal right now. I think it would actually be kind of reasonable to get the point, but I'm going to stay bold with it. I'm going to see if I can just be 2 color and pray we get removal later. The Watchdog is 1/3 defender. If you have something you really need to protect, that's pretty fine, but the only card we really need to protect is a card that can already sack something and give it indestructible, so I think I'll just take the big Afterlife 2 here. Pick 9 is nothing. Pick 10, another Transport or a Viscopa Vampire. Take another Transport. Pick 11, Scavenger. Trumpeter's nice in Rakdos, because their mechanic makes it so you really want to deal damage to your opponent, and the Menace helps you do that, even if it's just 1 little ping damage. That's going to let you spectacle all your cards out and cast them for cheaper. So that is a good card, just not really for this deck without red. Alright, we've got a full deck right now. That is so weird. Why is the Active Trees in the M20 artwork? That's so weird. 2 damage. Does not kill that much stuff, but there's still a chance I would splash it in if we get absolutely no other removal. But here we are. Here's one of the better removal spells. Grotesque Demise, 3 mana, exile a creature with power 3 or less. The fact that it exiles is what is so good about it. Getting around cards like Dead Revels, getting around the Afterlife ability. You know, if you Grotesque Demise a Ministrant of Obligation, you're pretty happy. So I like the Grotesque Demise here. Night Arbiter was a pretty fun win condition for the Azorius decks. You get a big blocker. It holds up while it's attacking, and your opponent just can't block it at all. Terramander is a pretty fun one. This is a pretty good pack, but for us, we're very interested in the Grotesque Demise. Pack 3, pick 2 has another Pitiless Pontiff, which I would be pretty thrilled to take, but I think, again, with some mediocre removal in here right now, we need to focus on improving our non-creature spells more than our creatures. We've got plenty of solid creatures here, so I'm going to grab the final payment here for the best of these removal spells. Pack 3, pick 3. This was a really good Rakdos draft pod, which I started noticing last pack with that super late Scorch Mark. Again, that's one of the weaker red removal spells, but still seeing it basically last pick. Some solid stuff for Rakdos. Yeah, now we've got Daggercaster, Skewer the Critics, Trumpeter, but for us, in Orzhov, we'll grab a Spire Mangler. Keep to the Skies. Pick 4, Ill-Gotten Inheritance was a pretty scary card. It works really well with Spectacle, which we're not really doing, but it's also just like an inevitable clock you have on your opponent. If you've got a good board state, that's where it's hard for your opponent to attack in. Say you have a Pitiless Pontiff on board, or if you have a bunch of flyers on the board chipping away at your damage, this is good at stealing those last few points of damage. You can sack it, drain your opponent for the final 4. Ill-Gotten Inheritance was deceptively good. It was a terrifying card whenever your opponent slammed that on the board, and hopefully we could be pretty terrifying with it today. Pick 6, Filler Crocodile. I've got a lot of 3s. I'll just take another Orator here over a 3rd Spire Mangler. 3, pick 7. There's that M20 Act of Treason. I guess we're just on Plague White, because again, we are not running Cry the Carnarium in this deck. That is for sure. There's red being super open, but we got plenty of removal without it now. So I'm happy with our pure Orzhov build. Get one of the Watchdogs late. Thirsting Shade. Lifelinker that can scale with the game. It's fine. Filler. Super late Daggercaster. One of the better things that Daggercaster does is kind of try to hose the Orzhov decks like we're playing here, because we have a lot of 1/1 flyers. Although we didn't get an insane amount of Afterlife. Alright, let's build this thing. So, we are on 23 creatures right now. Probably want to go like 17, so that is 6 creatures to cut. And really did not get that much Afterlife here. We saw none of the main common. It's a white and a black for a 2/1 Vigilance, and when it dies, you get that Afterlife trigger, you get the 1/1 flyer. It's the main one to fill your deck with and get a lot of Afterlife going. I think we have 3 Afterlife cards, 1 Tithe Taker, 1 Ministrant, and 1 Transport. So a lot of the go wide and sacrifice stuff, Vampires, Scavengers, and Priest of Forgotten Gods, it's going to be a little stranded in this deck. Because the main way we're going wide is just playing a high count of creatures rather than getting Afterlife triggers. So that's pretty awkward. We've got a lot of 3-drops. I think the weakest of these is the Grudians. They're just an okay stat line, and I already have other Death Touchers with the Pontiff and the Panther that are more efficient. And then I guess just for like super curve outs, I wouldn't mind running all these 1-drops. Some of these would be on the chopping block, but I only need to cut 6 creatures, and I've already set aside 7 of them. So I don't really need to cut any of the ones here, I think. So if we go 17 creatures, we want to go 23 cards and 17 lands. 17 creatures and 6 spells. So cut an Arrestor Zeal. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 spells here. I might go 16 creatures, because I do like all of these spells a lot. Dead Revels, I guess, is my least favorite, but that's because the quality of the others is so high. You know, Ethereal Absolution, Final Payments, Grotesque Demise, and Inheritance. Very high quality non-creature cards in this deck. The creature quality is certainly a little lower, so I think I'd rather cut my 17th worst creature than my 7th best spell. So I could just cut all those. Got a little black-white Flyers deck here, running Spiremanglers, getting a bunch of damage in the sky. Ill-Gotten Inheritance to try to help close out the game as well, getting a bunch of extra ping damage and then stealing your opponent's last 4 life. Ethereal Absolution, completely winning games out of nowhere. And a good chunk of removal to keep ourselves protected from our opponent's bombs. So yeah, curve out aggressively, get as much damage in early as we can, wrap things up with some Flyers and Ill-Gotten Inheritance. Looks like a very reasonable Orzhov deck here. Super excited to see how this does, so without further ado, let's hop into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the play for game 1. Just drop some 2/2s and start slapping with them. We're going to get real impassioned this game. Gruul Guildgate starts our opponent off, so there's 2 options here. They could be some kind of green-red or green-blue deck, maybe splashing into the other one, or just like green-red in general. Or they could be 5-color gates. I would be horrified if they're 5-color gates, because that deck is incredibly scary. Doesn't come together too often, but when it does, it is probably the best deck. And it looks like they're just Gruul. They're just green-red over here. Let's cast another order before we attack with the first one, so I gain my life. And then we'll get the trade here. Our deck likes trades in the early game for multiple reasons. Filling the graveyard, filling our graveyard is good with Dead Revels if we draw into that, picking up some creatures back from grave. And filling our opponent's grave is good for Ethereal Absolution. I'm surprised they hasted out the Clamor Shaman here, because they did not need unblockability to get the runner in, so they could hit for like 1 less damage. To have that be a 2/2 for bigger future attacks. And to make it big enough to attack an R2/2 if we played another creature. Debating final paymenting the runner, but I think I have to hold on to it for that Errinx they have in hand, which is awkward. We are flooding over here. Really could have used some other play for last turn or this turn in the middle of our curve, because our opponent is curving out 2/3, technically 2/3/3, because they played a tap land on turn 4. But still, they are just applying more pressure every turn, and here's going to come the big trampling Errinx. That is quite the issue, and I'm low enough on life, I'm going to have to sack the order. Well, we'd probably have a real good chance at winning if we drew this last turn or the turn before, because that's the perfect card to sacrifice to the final payment. But currently I feel like I'm in a very bad spot. Yeah, because Clamor Shaman is going to get in here. Rough. That is just the wrong sequence of draws here. Can still do some pretty nasty things with final payment. If I attack with this transport, then they can Clamor Shaman the 2/1. So I need to leave... I think I need to leave transport on board so that they Clamor Shaman an untapped creature and I respond by final paymenting that creature anyway. It's rough to lose the 5/3 here. Jesus. I have to blow up the runner because we can't kill it with our tokens, but I can kill the Erranks with them. 2 tokens leaves me with 1 blocker for Clamor Shaman. Even if they shut off the other one. I think I have to do it this way because the trample, so I'm getting trampled for 1. I take 2 damage total this way. 3 damage go to 3 life the other way, and if I go to 3 life, I'm dead to Skewer the Critics. Either way, I have to top deck something very fast. Okay. That might be something. Order is tempting. It's probably Ministrant Transport. The big tempting thing about the Orator is that green's got some tramplers, but I think even with an Orator, we're just going to incredibly die to tramplers. Because they all have, like, Riot as well, so they just have haste. Riot lets them choose between haste and a +1/+1 counter. That's what's going on. So we need like Ill-Gotten Inheritance or Ethereal Absolution here. Good lord, their deck is insane. Alright. Yep, that was Magical Christmas Land aggro curve out. They played more stats to the board every single turn and had a removal spell plus +4/+2 trample trick in the end, so there's not much you're going to do against that unless you have your own curve out, and we certainly didn't. We missed playing a creature a couple turns in a row for some early flood there, so just stumbled too long, and that'll be 0-1 heading into game 2. Here we are for game 2, mono-colored hand. Mono-colored hand. Those are the worst feeling mulligans, when you're kind of on a forced mull and then it's another mono-colored hand. This time we have the strongest card in our whole deck if we hit white mana, and any land gets us at least a Spire Mangler for a moment. At this point, a mulligan to 5 is already like 25% less likely to win, and when the average win rate is 50-50, you're very, very not likely to win if you mull to 5. So, like, as unlikely as we are to hit a white source and make it to Absolution, I feel like we're less likely to win off of a mull to 5, honestly. Because if we survive till Ethereal Absolution, we're going to win, period. Verity Circle. Interesting. Really good luck so far. Super controlling blue-white deck from our opponent. They just play a Verity Circle, pass, next turn just pass. They're just going to play the 4 mana to draw 2, I suppose. Our hand is not that good at punishing a really slow start like this. You just have the 1 creature. Warden, 4/4 Flying Vigilance, that's pretty good. I will spend 5 life to kill that. It's so awkward that Ethereal Absolution isn't even good on this board because we're against, like, no creatures Azorius. So, like, it gives my Spire Mangler +1/+1, but it doesn't make any tokens, and it doesn't make any of their creatures worse. So yeah, now they just get to start drawing cards off of tapping one of our transports per turn, but once we have 2 transports out, they're going to have to do something to the other one. Costs like all of their mana to tap one of our creatures. There's an Orzhov Locket. Orzhov Enforcer is the play, and then Ethereal Absolution wins the game here, because now their Death Toucher does not have Death Touch, because it has no power, and their Afterlife tokens die immediately, because they're 1/1s. So, opponent basically scoops there, there's no blocks. And we are 1-1, heading into game number 3. It's a nice aggressive hand. Unfortunately, we're on the draw, so we're not going to be hyper-aggressive. But I like this hand a lot. Playing against Simic. They start with Simic Ascendancy. So if they put 20 +1/+1 counters on their board throughout the course of this game, they will win the game automatically. But it's also an activated ability. They've got like combat tricks, put +1/+1 counters on creatures at instant speed for 3. This hand keeps getting better. Final payment and an ill-gotten inheritance, our first couple draws. Hello, Gateway Sneak. This is why we started with the Plague White. So if they played a 3 toughness creature, I could still attack in right now. Maybe I should have just pre-combat final paymented and attacked with both here, because I really don't want them to draw any cards off the Sneak. And the only way to know that they aren't is to just kill it right now. Because if they play Guildgate next turn, it'll be unblockable no matter what I play. Yeah, I was thinking I was going to go Ministrant to have that on board before a final payment. It's also more mana efficient, so like if I hit a land next turn, I could double spell payment plus Orator. But if they play a gate, it's pretty bad for me. Let me just draw 1. I guess it's not the complete end of the world. I'll still do the Ministrant here. If they don't play a gate, then the Sneak's irrelevant. Wonderful. I mean, not completely irrelevant. I guess they have the instant speed Simic Ascendancy activations. They know that it won't die on the attack. I think it's probably worth the double block here. Because if they don't want the Sneak to die, now they have to spend 3 mana on Ascendancy and play no more creatures this turn. Meanwhile, I still get my 2/1/1 flyers. Yeah, I'm happy to have them spend the turn on that. And land off the top. Booty. Could Spire Mangler away the Sneak instead at this point. But then they have the Ascendancy again. This will be 4 power. Yeah, I just have the final payment in at this point. Rough mana draws are rough. So I think they have a Stony Silence, unless they're playing in full control mode. Arena keeps stopping at 1 mana, 1 green mana untapped. Stony Silence is a 1 green mana, +1/+1 counter on a creature untap it card. Chillbringer's phenomenal. Premium common in this set. I got Spire Mangler to go pretty hard against it here. Mangled. But the stun is great, and then just flyers are good. Steeple Creeper, speaking of flyers, that can jump into the sky for 4 mana. Double Steeple Creeper. Steepy creepy. They do need to spend a bunch of mana to jump them into the sky, though. So we've still got a lot of pressure here. The Ill-Gotten Inheritance should be absolute nightmare fuel for our opponent, because then they're losing an extra life each turn, and if they ever get to 4 life, we can just sack that and they're dead. one last card in their hand. Will we find out what it is, or are they just going to activate Simic Ascendancy a bunch? So activate it once and then hold up the mana to jump the creeper. So last card is more likely a land or like an irrelevant creature. Get that free spectacle on Dead Rebels. Thanks, Ill-Gotten Inheritance. Very cool. So we attack all creeper kills Mangler. Do I just Dead Rebels, play more threats, and pass? I only hit for 1 extra damage this turn. So I think I wait until our board is better. Right, sack a Spire Mangler to hit for 1 is not very good, even with Ill-Gotten Inheritance on board. Actually, in the interest of going wide, Shade plus Orator is probably the better cast for this turn, and just have the Ministrant for later. Growth Spiral, draw a card, play a land. They're down to 7. Ooh, there's our Mega Bomb. Alright, sack a Mangler hit for 3 is definitely worth it. Because then they are dead to Inheritance if I hit the 6th mana. Again, another little minor sequencing thing here. We should play the Order first to gain 1. But I'm just playing quick and sloppy today. It's just a Premier draft, will be fine. Oh god. Jam the squad. They are dead on board, because we can just activate the Shade, so they block the 2/2 power creatures and hit for 3. That's 3 damage. We're representing on-board lethal, so no reason to do anything else until they do their own trick. Okay, yeah, they did have a Stony Silence the whole time, but that is not going to do it, and we are 2-1. Heading into game number 4. We gotta hope this Thirsting Shade gains us a ton of life this game for these final payments. Payments are getting expensive. Well, there's Ministrant, though. Probably the best creature in our whole deck to sacrifice to that. Plague White. Alright, well, I cannot block that. But I can attack into it. I feel like this is likely to hit me for more than 5 throughout this game, so I might as well pay 5 to kill it here. Because our hand is pretty weak to that right now. Obviously, the Thirsting Shade, not great. The Ministrant, real bad. The -1/-1 putting in work. Opponents on mono black so far. In Ravnica sets, there's really not much of a mono-colored deck, so... I think I'm okay with being out of removal early here, because I actually have enough cards in hand, enough lands in hand, to know that I'm playing Absolution on turn 6. And our opponent is stuck off of their second color. They play nothing last turn. think I need to lead with Debtor's Transport because we were just focused on putting the maximum amount of damage on board each turn right now. This is lethal on board. There's a lifelinker, but they are dead. No absolution necessary, although that is another way to win this game. Since it only has 1 toughness, I could have played absolution and killed it, but there we go. That is 3-1 now, and technically we drew Ethereal Absolution in all 3 of our winning games, but we only cast it in 1. So our deck is winning without Absolution, so pretty good stuff so far. 3-1 heading into game 5. I mean, there our opponent was stuck off a second color. They didn't get to do much, but our deck won 1 game without Absolution. That was a fair game of Magic, where each player could do everything. A little bit of a curve here. We've got our 2 and our 3. Then turn 4. Killing something, I guess, with a final payment. We have put the spookiest card on the board first. I kind of want to go Orator, hold up the Sacrifice here. Because if they have a removal spell, I'd rather it work on the Orator and not the Pontiff. The only issue with playing it this way is then I don't have a double spell as easily in the future with 1 less 2-drop. Can sack an Orator and play a Spire Mangler here. Okay, we don't need to sack an Orator. Might have to payment the Vampire, because Lifelink's pretty hard to race. Overplaying Spire Mangler. I can play the Spire Mangler and trade, but then they gain the 3 still. I guess with the Dead Rebels in hand, probably playing a long game towards that value. Sure, Spire Mangler trade. They gain a few points here. Pretty happy for them to removal spell the flyer here. Get that removal out of the way early. They will be gaining life, but again, we have a good position here to play for the long game value grind. Looking for land 6 for our transport. To try to take over the end game here. Play a transport, have it die, and then bring it back with rebels alongside our Mangler. That's how we're ending our curve here. Unless we miss the land. If we miss the land here, then I probably have to just dead rebels now. So I can play something next turn. Kill a 6/5. We hit the land, beautiful. If you can't tell, I'm very, very tired for today's recording. So my bad if I'm just staring at the screen a lot. I had to pick my sister up from the airport, so I got home at like 2 a.m. Is it greedy to still hold on to Dead Revels here? Probably, but I mean, Vampire's still a pretty good play for now. Jund, green, red, and black. Alright, perfect. Dead Revels is going to be insane now. Yeah, Transport is so good against destroy removal spells like that. Our opponent's just in a horrendous position. Picking up the Spire Mangler so we can use it as a combat trick for extra damage next turn to just make lethal so likely. Ill-Gotten Inheritance can already just shoot them for 4 if we get them down there. Alternatively, if they somehow have a way to blow this up, we can hit them in the sky for 4 off of the Spirits and the Mangler. They're just in an awful spot here. Just gonna haste in a Rendhorn and send a message. Looks to be the case. I don't think there's anything for a single mana that can save them here, but I guess we're about to find out. Skewer the Critics, that certainly does not do it. It's going to be an Ill-Gotten Inheritance victory here. And that is 3... Well, that's 4-1 now. These have been some pretty quick games of Magic. Heading into game number 6. Alright, here we are for game 6. Start off with our order and hold up some removal from there till we get to that Debtor's Transport that's been very great for us in this last game. Red deck, they start with Footlight Fiend, the most aggressive deck here probably, Rakdos. They could be Gruul. Footlight Fiend is reasonable without being a pure Rakdos deck. Trade into it here because it's incredibly good against Viscopa Vampire, so we really don't want that to be around when we play the Vampire. So we'll just take the 1-for-1 trade. They are indeed Rakdos. There's the Roustabout. Sure. I think without having a Dead Revels or Absolution in hand here, I want to just try to keep the board clear and get as many Vampire swings in as I can, because that'll be really devastating. Okay, I don't really mind that trade, and I drew Dead Revels, so we'll just trade there. They don't want to trade. Fair. No Dead Revels, then I'm not going to do it for just one creature. Take this damage in case they play something spookier. Nope, they're just going to draw a couple cards. Undercity's Embrace. Alright, well, goodbye, Clamor Shaman, then. Twilight Panther's the draw. Awkward. I guess it's not horrific, because I get to put something on board while playing Dead Revels. There is still a bit of an argument here for just holding on to Dead Revels because of how good it is with Transport, but I think I need to be able to cast something next turn if I don't draw land. And if I draw like a second Transport or Ethereal Absolution and I didn't play Dead Revels this turn, we would have a really bad turn next turn. Okay, well, I hit the land. That's awkward. That is how it tends to go, isn't it? Actually, don't hate the attack there with Panther. Colt Guildmage. Does that make me discard cards? Oh, Jesus. Man, that's so good. Alright, well, their blocks are all bad for the transport. Their blocks for the Panther aren't much better, but they'll make me discard a 3 instead of a 2 if they block the Panther and then also activate Cold Guild Mage next turn. They're pretty unlikely to activate it next turn, though, because they're probably just casting a spell. I think I'm just going to hold up Panther. So I can just play both the 3-drops here. Yeah, this is super fine. Because the Flyers are a very clear way to try to end this game. I might actually play around Blade Juggler here. Blade Juggler is the 2/3 that we passed a bunch. That does 1 damage to all creatures your opponents control when it enters. I don't care if they Blade Juggler Ministrant, but if I play this Vampire and they kill both my Flyers and the Vampire, that's a really strong Blade Juggler. Yep, goodbye Vampire. 10th Street Dodger, sure. Alright, we have our win cons. Get in there in the sky. I'm honestly probably just attacking with everybody at this point. Pontiff, that's very legit. So if they do have the Blade Juggler, they Clamor Shaman the Orator and they double block the Panther with 2 Dodgers, and then everybody would die to a Blade Juggler. That is not the play though, so they probably don't have it, if they're not killing Ministrant this turn with a 10th Street Dodger. And that's the only card that I'm really scared of right now. I guess they could have like a Gates Ablaze. They could play a Gate and then Gates Ablaze for 1. But again, they didn't kill the Ministrant. Alright, 5-1. So we are at a very positive record with this deck, and we are guaranteed to be in the money out of this return draft to the return to Ravnica. Ravnica Allegiance. Well, that's a keeper on the draw for this one. But we have the strongest card in the whole set in our hand, Ethereal Absolution. Our opponent has a pre-game action. They get a Scry 3 for free on turn 1, so they have a very strong hand. A 4-mana 4/4 flyer that scries 1 each upkeep. Incredible stat line in draft. So we might just die before we get to Ethereal Absolution. If they have a curve out to go with that, if they go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, and their 4-drop's a 4/4 flyer, this game could be over real quick. I really don't love final paymenting this Guild Mage. But if I don't, it's going to hit me for 2, 4, like 6. The Mangler might be able to take out the Sphinx. I think I have to just use this aggressively here. Technically defensively. I just have to use this quickly here. Oh, they have the Quench. That is filthy, but now they don't have the Quench for the Spire Mangler that I can try to use on the Sphinx. I guess I'll be using the second Spire Mangler I just drew on this Guild Mage. They miss a land here? Ooh, they missed a land. No Sphinx this turn, so we have a... Oh, never mind. They just missed the blue source. But we still have a tiny bit of breathing room. No Dead Revel, still I have 2 cards in grave. I really don't want a Spire Mangler or a Concordia Pegasus. But if I don't, then I'm playing nothing right now. And then the Dead Revels doesn't do anything next turn, and Dead Revels is my only castable spell next turn. I kind of don't have a curve other than Mangler this Pegasus and then Dead Rebels. It's not the blue source, thank goodness. That Sphinx is a splash. Well, there it is, but we have double Spire Mangler now and a final payment if that doesn't work. I'm a little tempted to payment it before they even get a scry out of it, and while they're tapped out of blue. I'm gonna go pretty low, but I've got an Ill-Gotten Inheritance coming up. I guess it's also reasonable to slam down the Spire Mangler then during our turn. Go to 4. So if they have their own Ill-Gotten Inheritance, that's going to be real bad for me. That actually makes me feel a little better about all the life payments that I've made, because it means that this was a 6-mana deal 4 instead of like a 6-mana deal 10 or 12 or whatever if I'd gained more life. If they have an Ill-Gotten Inheritance, they won't have the mana to activate it immediately anyway. However, if I tap out for... I like tapping out for Ethereal Absolution while they don't have counter mana up. What I don't like about it is then they could cast Ill-Gotten Inheritance and pass. It goes to our turn. We would play ours, but then we'd pass back to them and just be dead. If I want to not be dead to Ill-Gotten Inheritance, I have to cast it right now. It's so rough because it makes a lot of sense to just play Absolution while they're tapped out. But I think I need to not randomly die to Inheritance. That's one of the few ways that would make Revenge make a little more sense here. Okay, so Racketeers, we really need to be able to block that. They do have a blue up. They could have a Quench here. So I'd like to play around that. We can go Panther and Spire Mangler. And this is 2 blockers up for their Racketeers. Either one can kill it. But then it does spit out those 2 1/1 flyers, but then we can Absolution those potentially. Ooh. Grasping Thrall is real bad. Again, still blue and 1 for potential quenches. But at this point, feel like I have to go for it. I don't think Arena's been stopping for them every time I've been casting anything, and they definitely just top decked that Thrall. Alright. Yeah, they don't have the Quench. Good. They have removal here. I go to 2. Dead to another Thrall. Play it slow. So Ethereal Absolution, what is so good in these mirror matches is it just completely counters their afterlife triggers. We don't have to worry about that at all. 5, 6, 7, so this is a double activative Absolution. Good to me. Land, pass. This game we're 100% just winning because of how busted Absolution is. We have finally won a game due to just Super Mega Bomb Rare instead of just the rest of our deck. But boy, is it a Super Mega Bomb. They've got 2 more creatures in grave still, so we'll get 2 more flyers here. Gotta Grotesque Demise up if something weird happens. And they scry 1 off of the Senate Griffin and put it on the bottom. Probably just trying to find a way to blow up an enchantment. And there's the concession. Ethereal Absolution. Ridiculously powerful card. Absolute Groan Test. Easily the strongest card in the set. And it takes us straight to victory on that one after a lot of early damage from our opponent. That is going to be 6 and 1. heading into the final boss with 2 shots at it here, 2 rounds in the chamber for our final battle. Mono white opening hand for this potential last game of Magic. I'm just going to keep it here. We have 2 really good creatures to start it off, and as soon as we hit a black source, the quality of the other 3 cards in this hand is through the roof. Incubation Druid starts our opponent off, so speaking of card quality, this thing is great. It ramps into its own adaptability, so on turn 4, they can block and then activate and have a 3/5 blocker up, and then they just have infinite mana after that. So far we have drawn only more planes, which is awkward. Tithe Taker's a good stat line against the Brush Strider, just trade into that thing. Yeah, I guess I'll lose out on 1 point of life to just hold the Brush Strider off of us here. Slow this game down a little bit. Well, they kept the 2-lander at least, so they won't be adapting the Incubation Druid yet. Which is very helpful. If we hit the white source, sorry, if we hit the black source before they hit their land, we probably win. I guess at this point we pressure them while they're stuck on mana, so there goes an Orator probably. Maybe not. Nope. Cool. Okay, they found their second color and their 3rd land, so their 4th mana total. Very good stuff for our opponent. Wow. All right. All planes were drawn this game. That is awkward. Luckily, we're still not really under pressure. Now that Druid's going to be a 3/5, though, and then he could cast their whole hand. Are they just the 6 Goblin Gathering deck? Because that would be nasty. We have finally found the black source, so that's solid. Don't have double black. It's still a little awkward. Think I still need to play more creatures over removal right now. The main thing I would kill is the Incubation Druid. That hasn't been adapted yet anyway. Okay. So we lose unless we find Ethereal Absolution then. This has quickly turned into a game where I have to draw my Mega Bomb, which is kind of embarrassing. But that's what happens when you draw the full play set of Goblin Gathering in the opener. Just wait. Yeah, if they have the Trumpet Blast, the 3 mana +2/+0 to all creatures, we are just dead, period. Whoa, definitely not attacking. Looks like they have the +2/+0 to all creatures. That is a shame. This is basically like a combo deck and draft that either you draw the perfect hand and it's pretty much unbeatable, or it just falls apart. And unfortunately, our opponent drew the perfect hand here, so we are indeed just dead. 1, 2, let's see, 6 times 3. I guess not quite, unless they have 2 copies. They don't have the mana for 2 copies. So 6 times 3 is 18, +2 is 20. So we actually wipe out a bunch of decent stuff here and don't die. Final payment, the Incubation Druid. I guess I have to do that after damage. So I guess because they're probably +2/+0ing everybody here, I should expect all these creatures to die anyway. In which case, It doesn't matter if I put the 2 toughness on those, so I could put one of these on the druid. Do something like that. I guess just in case something really weird happened and they don't have the +2/+0, I can do this. So I still have, you know, my 2 toughness creatures on the stuff where it matters. Kind of have to put the Death Toucher here, I think, against the +2/+2. I mean, I guess I don't have something good to sack to it is the problem. Because I want everybody else to actually kill these things. I mean, it's the only way I know that that dies, even if they activate. Yeah, so that was pretty obvious. So we let it happen. Take all these trades. Final payment maybe post-combat. Yeah, I don't actually think we can win. It's such a bummer. Alright, yeah. Opponent played oops, dot win the deck, and oops won. That's a tragedy. Alright, here we are for the final game of Magic. This is our final boss, win or lose. We've got a great opening hand here. Let's hope we don't get wombo comboed out of the game on this one. Because we're just playing against an average mid-rangey deck. I think we've got a lot of great options here. Our opponent starts with an incredible 2-drop. 2 mana, 3/3. Love spending removal this early against Gruul, but my blocks are not going to be particularly good. I guess I can go Tithe Taker plus Shade on Goblin. It's not the end of the world. I keep the payment. Combat Trick is not that bad either. We still traded these into a full Magic card on our opponent's side of the board. Alright. Gravelhide Goblin. Ooh, 1 toughness. You love to see that. Love to see that for our flyer here. 4 mana for +2/+2. So I guess if they go land attack, because they're threatening the +2/+2, we can't declare any blocks. Bit awkward. Feel like we are favored for the long game though, so I'm just going to hold off on blocks here. I just need to buy time to hit lands. We've drawn 0 so far. There's a land for the lifelinking Viscopa Vampire. Clan Crusher. Okay, double payment, I'll kill it. There was going to be a debate if I didn't draw another removal spell, but drawing another one feels safe to just kill that. Before they potentially play a Riot card that comes with a +1/+1 counter and also kill our Vampire. Would have been an awful turn for us. 3/3 Menace is fine. We can outrace that. The 6/6 is less fine, so we might final payment the 6/6 here. But the Vampire just outraces the Gore Clan Wrecker, so I'm not worried about that card. I guess I could declare the block on the Sauroform hybrid, force them to tap out, and then respond by killing it. That would be pretty dang good. Okay, or they just do it right now. That works too. Winning the race off lifelink here. We got the 1 mana +1/+1 trick. I don't think there's a green hexproof trick in this set. But if there is, that'd be devastating. Oh, there's a 1 mana fight spell. Oof. Still not the end of the world, though. We are definitely ahead. We can win the game from here. Unless they draw much better than us. So we are outracing them right now. They're at a lower life total already, and we're hitting for 4 a turn. They're hitting for 3 a turn. If we get to mana 6, we have an incredible 6-drop. We did make it to mana 6. But they also drew pretty well the Scorch Mark right off the top for that flyer. Well, do you draw something off the top for the transport? Yep, double spell in a row here. Probably. Unless they were just passionately investigating the land in their hand. Maybe they were. Maybe they were. It highlighted and everything. Okay, Savage Smash the white. Currently dead on board on the crackback, so they have removal for transport. Or a blocker here. Wow, double Savage Smash, so it was 2 spells in a row. Luckily, Transport's Afterlife ability really important here. So that we still have the board while they have nothing. And then they missed. All right. That is going to do it. That is a 7-2 run, a full trophy run for the return to Ravnica Allegiance here. Very, very strong stuff. Got to show off some Orzhov nonsense. Not the most synergistic or super super Orzhov-y deck here ever. It was really just a great bomb rare and some very good, like a great mana curve, great bomb rare, and some good removal. The final payment's Grotesque Demise coming in really clutch in a lot of these games. There are usually a little bit more pieces of synergistic Afterlife stuff in these decks, but I don't think Orzhov was super open in this draft pod. We obviously forced it off of the Pack 1 Pick 1 Ethereal Absolution, which I think is basically always the correct choice. However, because it wasn't that open, I think this was a pretty good draft pod for splashing around, being blue, white, black, or red, white, black, pairing ourselves up with another allied guild here. Would have maybe led for the strongest deck, some kind of 3-color control deck. Seemingly probably in Rakdos for how that draft went, but this still worked perfectly fine. 7-2, we will take it. But it did have some filler creatures for sure, like, I don't know, Watchdog, Shade, a lot of Orators and whites and stuff. If you upgrade some of these for some premium uncommons, then you've got like a really strong deck. But this deck was good enough at 7-2 here. Absolutely take those, and that's going to be our look at the return to Ravnica Allegiance. But we'll be back to some Final Fantasy very soon. There's a qualifier play-in event, and I'm pretty low on gems. Well, until I did this, now I'm at a decent count. But I do want to go into a qualifier play-in event that's going to be best of 1 Final Fantasy sealed, where I can turn my playing points into some more gems. So we'll be playing more Final Fantasy in the near future if you're interested in that. And we'll be playing at least 1 draft of all the flashback formats coming up, leading up to the launch of Edge of Eternities. And then we'll be doing Edge of Eternities, so plenty of cool stuff on the horizon. But for now, for me, for today, that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.